Good evening. This meeting is called to order. Welcome and thank you for participating in the City of Helena City Commission meeting. We are pleased to be able to provide this alternative meeting format in the city's effort to broaden public participation. Please be patient as we may experience technical difficulties during the meeting. We welcome your public commentary during this meeting. Please read the following tips and guidelines for the app usage and your participation. Would you rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance. Good evening and welcome again. Presentations. Alpha, confirmation of Helena police officers Andrew Moore and Brett Hawk. Chief Hagan.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. Under Montana law and city ordinances, police officers are hired under a one-year probationary period. The officer successfully completes their one-year period. They must have confirmation of appointment by the City Commission. I'm here tonight to present officers Andrew Moore and Brett Hawks for confirmation as Helena police officers. Andrew grew up in Hampton, Illinois. He attended the University of Wisconsin-Platteville and the University of Montana, earning a bachelor's degree in wildlife biology. Andrew worked for Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks in various volunteer and temp positions until becoming a Montana game warden in 2015. He served as a game warden for 5 years before becoming a Helena police officer in March of 2020. Brett was born and raised in Helena and graduated from Helena High School. He's a current member of the Montana Army National Guard, and served as a military police officer. Brett was also a criminal analyst for 2 years with the Missouri River Drug Task Force until he was hired by the Helena Police Department in March of 2020. Mayor and Commission, when you feel it's appropriate, a motion and vote are needed. If the vote is for approval, I would ask you to give Andrew and Brett a moment of your time for a few words.
Thank you, Chief Hagan. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, oh, go ahead.
Thank you. I would move to confirm Helena police officers Andrew Moore and Brett Hawks.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion? It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Halliday.
Aye.
Commissioner Dean.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Mr. Moore, you want to say a few words? Officer Moore, sorry.
Yes, hello, my name is Andrew Moore, and I just want to say I'm proud to be serving the Helena Police Department and the community of Helena. And I want to thank Chief Hagan for giving me this opportunity and thank my family for their continued support. And I look forward to continuing my career within this department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Mr. Hawk?
Morning, Mayor and Commissioners. I would like to thank the City of Helena, Chief Hagan, and Helena Police Department for allowing me the opportunity to work for a great agency, as well as my friends and family for continued support as I navigate through this profession. I look forward to continuing to build great personal and professional relationships with the members of the department and making a positive impact on the community in which I was raised. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And welcome to the Helena Police Department family. We are proud of you and we thank you for joining being a part of the city. Any other commission want to say a few words to the new officers?
Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner Logan.
I guess I would just like to welcome both officers to the Helena Police Department and thank the chief and his staff for getting them to this point. I know they were a big part of that, and they step into a very important role within the Helena community and are really stepping into that role in a community that will really be supportive of them. And so I thank them for stepping forward and taking on that responsibility and wish them the best of luck.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any others?
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say congratulations and thanks to both of you for your service to the city and our community.
Okay. Moving along, consent agenda, claims. Madam Manager.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Mayor, I recommend you entertain a motion of consent to approve the amount of claims in this evening's packet for check numbers 180773 through 180907 in the amount of $266,667.
Come on, people. Everybody's waiting for the other.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, please go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move item A, claims.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Halliday,
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Loughlin. Aye. Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Okay, authorize the city attorney, excuse me, consent agenda B. Authorize the city attorney to file a counterclaim against plaintiff in subsector solution DBA Treasure State Internet and Telegraph versus City of Helena BDV 2020-1507. Mr. Jordan, you want to say anything about this?
Nothing to add. Mayor.
Okay. I'll any discussion? Any public comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner Logan.
I would move to authorize the city attorney to file a counterclaim against plaintiff in subsector solutions, DBA Treasure State Internet and Telegraph versus City of Helena, BDV 2020-1507.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Halliday,
No.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Loughlin,
Nay.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 3-2.
Communications proposals from commissioners. Any commissioner have anything to say, add, subtract? Moving along, report of the city attorney.
Mayor, Commissioners, nothing to discuss or update tonight.
I hope you don't think we're finishing this meeting early to go watch that game. Because I know that's why you're not saying anything.
I don't
Everybody
know
wanna
what game there is, Mayor.
Yeah, right. Okay, report of the city manager.
I'm also interested in the game myself, so I'll focus this in here on my piece. Just a quick congratulations to officers Howe and Moore for their confirmation as police officers to the City of Helena's Police Department. And I wanted to bring up something that's been happening in our emails over the last several days and plan that the staff had around e-bikes and e-scooters. During the administrative meeting on the 14th, the commission will be requested to provide direction specific to public engagement on where e-bikes and e-scooters should not be used in Helena. I want to clarify a couple of things. First, the e-scooters are being brought up with e-bikes because there's no definition, and at some point someone could buy a scooter and we need to figure out if they're the same thing as an e-bike, and if they're an e-scooter, do they belong and where they belong. So that's the first part. But second, the e-bike conversation really centers around the term and a definition of a motor vehicle. I get that there's a lot of the community who is focused on these are motorized. There's no specific definition though in our city code. So what I'm asking for is that we as a city study this quickly, the definition on the 14th, and then move to amend the city code and clarify whether a bicycle whether the purpose of the city code should define what a bicycle is and define a motor vehicle. Just to clarify, in Montana law, it specifically excludes bicycles from the term motor vehicle. State law also defines an electronically assisted bicycle as a bicycle for the purposes of the definitions of the rules of the road for bicycles. So recognizing these terms, and then additionally, ordinarily the Montana code annotated is used for guidance and would mean that a motor vehicle, which is specifically defined, is an automobile with an internal combustion engine. So there are three vying definitions that we just need to clarify and make more clear in the city code. And until we do that, the team has had difficulty answering questions as to whether or not e-bikes are allowed on our trails. The staff have also reviewed resolutions in the hopes of a greater clarity. Resolution 11500 designates Mount Ascension as a natural park and prohibits the use of motorized vehicles. There is no definition of that term in the resolution or in city code, and state law, again, distinguishes between a motor vehicle and a motorized non-standard vehicle. So separately, Helena's developed parks only prohibits the operation of a motor vehicle on tennis courts. So we have a need for cleanup and clarity that certainly we want to make sure that the commission has enough information on before making a decision. However, I want to make sure to point that out tonight, that is coming up at the administrative meeting on the 14th, and can answer any further questions you might have at this time if you'd like on this item. I do have more items after this.
Comments or questions for the manager from the commission?
Mayor, I guess oh, I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead.
Go ahead, Commissioner O'Loughlin.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a question for the city manager. So my impression is that the city has done some research on how other municipalities have handled this. Am I correct that it appears that most municipalities preclude or prohibit e-bikes on their sort of recreational trails? Is that and I'm just wondering, because we're not alone, right? And like our confusion or the lack of clarity on state law hasn't precluded other states from providing this level of certainty for users and their trails. And is my impression right that like many other municipalities in Montana have already established some guidance around this issue?
Madam Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, Commissioner, there have been other communities who've been specific about exactly where they're not allowed. And in particular, many times it's in a conversation around safer streets and routes inside the city for commuting with those e-bikes. Not so much on trail use, but in commuting. Yes.
Okay,
Okay, I thought the presentation that was given to Holmack included trails, but I guess maybe sharing that information with the commission would be helpful. And then just so I guess maybe just a comment, Mayor. I think the
Go ahead.
extent to which we can provide some certainty for this trail season, the better. So and
Yeah.
that sounds like what that sounds like what we will be able to provide on April 14th, and I think that I certainly would support some certainty for this trail
Clarity.
season, even if we're continuing a public process for how to handle e-bikes into the future.
Thank you. That's correct. Any other comments, Commissioner Halliday?
Yeah, I guess just following up on that, I just wanted to check and make sure I understood this correctly. So there's two distinct questions that I understood. One is this definition of, or what the commission considers a motorized vehicle to be. And then the separate question is a larger discussion about the appropriateness of e-bikes, where they would be appropriate and what that would mean. And I understand those to be two separate discussions. Is that right, Manager Hulsh?
Yes.
And so the one question about motorized vehicle, non-motorized vehicle, right? If the commission is going to say that a bicycle, which is a vehicle that has a electric motor, thus is a motor vehicle under the definition, that would be what we would say on the 14th to provide clarity for this season alone. Is that correct?
I'm sure that's what the staff are looking forward to. Yes, I'll agree.
And then the bigger question that we're getting in emails about the appropriateness of e-bikes in the future in the South Hills, that's anticipated to be a longer discussion that might not be decided on the 14th, or is not going to be decided on the 14th, and is anticipated to take some period of time longer. Is that correct?
Thank you, Commissioner. If the commission does in fact support the definition of the motor vehicle to include a bicycle with an electric engine, then that would mean that those would be off of the trail. Those would not be allowed as part of Mount Ascension as a natural city park, which prohibits motorized vehicles. So again, Resolution 11500 designates Mount Ascension as a natural city park and prohibits the use of motorized vehicles. So we would be able to use that definition to support no motorized vehicles on Mount Ascension, but then we have the second larger issue of the rest of the community, and that's what we need to find in the city code. So the larger conversation, separate conversation is around whether or not all trails, and we have very, very many definitions to trails, all trails are to be without motor vehicles on them. We have not made that clear.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Mayor,
And go ahead, Commissioner Logan.
question for the manager. Ms. Harlow-Schulk, what has been the engagement with the public up to this point? Let's say in Holmack, for example, relative to e-bikes?
I think they're waiting for us, I guess.
Have they considered it?
Yes, they've made a recommendation, as I understand it, Commissioner Logan. And Christy Pinozzo, who is also our Director of Parks Recreation of Open Lands, is also available to answer more direct questions around the engagement on and of Holmack.
And can I just ask a clarifier, Commissioner, when you say considered it, what is it?
The subject of e-bikes. My understanding is that e-bikes have been before or considered by Holmack up to this point. And I was just wondering the extent of it.
Madam Pinozzo?
Can I just ask, that's why I tried to ask this clarifying question before. Two separate questions. One is an e-bike a motorized vehicle? If it is, they're not allowed on our trails today based on our own regulations. That's the question that I understood you're deciding for the 14th. We can have public process on it, but it's obviously a question that has to be determined by this body because it's a simple statutory interpretation question that appears to be confusing our staff. The The second question that I asked about was the larger question, right? The it, as Commissioner Logan referred to, the appropriateness of e-bikes, irrespective of whether they're permitted today on our trails based on our rules, whether they're going to be permitted in the future, meaning we would have to change our rules if they're not permitted today. I understood that question to not be on the 14th and that was a larger discussion. That's why I'm trying to understand. I mean, we have had public engagement on this, but I've understood a lot of different articulations of what our process is. I thought we were just providing very clear guidance for this season at this time.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
my question was not one of contention, but just one of curiosity. If the subject of e-bikes has come before Holmac.
Madam Penoza?
Mayor, Commissioner, yes, at the last 3 Holmac meetings, the Holmac has discussed e-bikes. At their January meeting, they had a discussion about e-bikes and they asked the staff to come back with more information. So at the February meeting, the staff came back with a presentation that talked about what different municipalities, not just in Montana, but in other states like Colorado, were doing for their e-bike policies. So that's the presentation that you guys saw that was attached to, I believe, one of the memos that I provided. And then in March, the Holmac met and discussed a potential public survey, and kind of went through a public survey that we were going to put together to send out to the public. So Holmac has not made any recommendations at this point. I would say that there hasn't necessarily been public involvement at this point or public engagement. Our Holmac meetings are open to the public, so people have joined those meetings, but the city has not engaged in any public engagement necessarily on e-bikes at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Director.
You bet. Any other comments from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, quick
Go ahead,
question.
Commissioner Dean.
Director Penoza, that was helpful and prompted a question for me. So will you all be following, I guess after we give whatever the direction is on the 14th, is that simply as we're getting towards, into spring and summer, and then Holmac and Parks will be following the public outreach procedure that we adopted previously, or how do you envision this moving forward?
Mayor, Commissioner Dean, I think that's really up to the commission. The memo that we've provided and that we will present at the April 14th meeting recommends a public process to really address sort of the larger where e-bikes are or are not allowed within the city. There is, I know, a part of the memo where we sort of explain the definitional dilemma that we're in and sort of how we've interpreted that over the years. And I think that's why we heard during the rewrite of our Chapter 7 recreation chapter for Helena Open Lands that people really wanted to see a policy for e-bikes. And so that's, we're recommending a public process to sort of consider what that policy might be. I think it would be up to the commission to make any interpretational decisions at that April 14th meeting or give us direction on that.
Okay, thank you. Thomas, you want to add your 2 cents?
Yeah, just I think I respect, and obviously the commission has the complete discretion to interpret the code. The problem that I see is that particular section of code is enforced as a criminal misdemeanor violation, so up to a $500 fine and up to 6 months in jail. Because there is no definition of motor vehicle with respect to those uses in natural my we have to rely, based on the code, on the ordinary meaning of motorized vehicle. So my recommendation is that if the commission wants to further define motor vehicle to include, and I don't necessarily disagree with that, it's very unclear, to include electronic bicycles, electronic assisted bicycles, that desire be expressed in an ordinance amending the code, not just simply a statement of interpretation. Because ultimately, if we're going to enforce the code, regrettably, it's not needed to use a misdemeanor form of prosecution, but that's what we have on the books, and I would make that part of the ordinance. Is we would have to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt to a judge or jury, and I just don't think they would do that with the term motor vehicle. So if we want to clarify motor vehicle, I would recommend reducing that to an ordinance that expresses that, so the public is aware clearly what is prohibited on either natural parks or developed city parks.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
just based on that for Director Pinozzo, next or on the 14th, will you be asking for direction for that to be included in the public outreach process then, the piece that Thomas just referenced?
Mayor, Commissioner, I think it could be whatever the commission would like. Again, we are going to recommend a larger public engagement process to discuss where and determine where e-bikes are or are not appropriate within the city. And I think it would be up to the commission if they would like to propose a resolution to clarify, as Thomas recommended, that we do have that as part of the memo as a potential. If the commission could reach consensus on that, that is something that we could move forward with, and we could sort of remove that from the public process.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, I just have to say, I mean, you know, I try to avoid disagreements with our city attorney, but I have to just respectfully disagree on this one. Right? We have a code. It says motor vehicle. Bicycles are vehicles. That's just the plain language. A pedal assist has a motor. That's a motor vehicle. There's really no way around it other than going to absurd definitions. I understand if we want to do an ordinance after sort of reflecting on that plain language and clarifying that, but that needs to be clear for people on the 14th. So either this commission needs to say on the 14th, right, e-bikes are motor vehicles, or this commission needs to say e-bikes are not motor vehicles and provide clarity, because we have a hiking season and a biking season and a trail general use season coming up. And it's irresponsible of us if our city is telling us that they don't know what's allowed on the trails when it's, you know, you've got a motor vehicle, which is a bicycle with a motor, allowed on the trails. We are confusing people. We're sowing anger and frustration with the city. And so we owe it on the 14th to do something, whether we want to sort of interpret our code to say e-bikes are not motor vehicles, or say they are, or they're whatever we want to do, even if it's in complete contradiction to the language of it. But we need to make a decision. That's our responsibility. After that, we can have a 2-year process, if that's the pleasure of the commission, to discuss e-bikes and their appropriateness. But we need certainty and clarity. That's our responsibility on the 14th. Yeah. We have language that our own staff tell us they can't define. So somebody needs to step up and do it then on the 14th.
On the 14th, we will be making it clear as to whether we allow, e-bikes are motor vehicles or not. Okay. Madam Manager, are you finished with your report?
I apologize, I could not find the unmute. No, Mayor, I am not. I have 2 more items.
Please continue.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Commissioners, during the February 3rd administrative meeting, the Helena Regional Sports Association, along with the YMCA and St. Peter's Health, shared their vision for a multi-sports center at the current location of the YMCA. On the February 17th administrative meeting, the Parks, Recreation, and Open Lands Department provided a presentation on the need for a larger conversation around regional parks and recreation to include not only the Regional Sports Association and the Y and St. Peter's as partners, but also to view the work that needs to be done beyond just that one location. And so as part of their presentation to us on the 3rd, the YMCA had requested for a letter of support for their fundraising event and a commitment from the commission for a bond to be run. We as staff do not recommend that you make a letter that supports a bond being run, and instead support the project and the partnership of the YMCA with the City of Helena in a larger conversation around a focus on supporting recreation in the community. And as a result, we provided the drafted letter that was shared to you all, and asking for your support in submitting that letter.
Comments or questions from the commission?
Yeah, just a comment on my end, Mr. Mayor. So hopefully you got a chance. I circulated different language this weekend, and I started from a point of just, we have private citizens telling us that they want to try to fill a gap in our community, and it's a big one, and it's a big lift on their part, and they're doing a lot to try to get there. We've always been a vocal supporter of it in the past. And my concern when I read the draft letter was at least 4 points. One was it tied our support to it being a public facility. And these individuals have come in with an interest in it being at least some sort of, quasi nonprofit creature. It might have the city involved, but I wouldn't tie our support in there for public purposes. It mixed the concepts of whether or not a parks district is in there. And I think those are, while it could be part of it, two separate conversations. It raised environmental concerns that they will have to face. They're not unaware of the circumstances over there at the Y, and what Centennial Park is built on top of. And it brought up questions of the lease. And I looked at it and just said, these are all sort of tangential issues. And if I go back to base principles, are we supportive of what the Helena Regional Sports Group are trying to do here? And for me, the answer is yes. I'd love to see them succeed. I hope that the city remains a partner and wants to discuss it in the future. But that's the letter that I'd want to send to them. And that's the letter, if I were them, I would want. I wouldn't want this other letter if I was fundraising, if I was going out to people saying the city is a partner in this, because I don't think the letter that we have in front of us expresses that sort of unequivocal support that I'd want to show a potential fundraiser if somebody was asking me to cut a check. So are there going to be questions and issues to surmount? No doubt. But if what we want to show to them is that we think this is a valuable project and we hope they succeed in the future, then let's send them that letter that tells them, and the people who will be looking at it, like the city gives you a thumbs up and hopes for your success, even if we can never spend a dollar on it. We wish you the best, because it'll make Helena a better place.
Thank you, Commissioner Halliday. Any other commission, where you stand with that?
Mayor, may I just ask a couple quick clarifying questions?
Please go ahead, Commissioner O'Loughlin.
So I just want to make sure that I have the right letter. So City Manager, was this sent, I think, on the 10th of March? And I might have the wrong date.
Which letter? No, this letter is.
I'm sorry, dated April 5th. I'm sorry. Looks like it was sent later. It's the one dated April 5th.
Commissioner O'Loughlin, to be in your packet is one dated March 12th, and it includes the same amount of detail in that draft that was
April
provided.
5th. Right.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was in the packet. I had it direct from email. Okay. And then so that maybe answers my second question as to whether or not the Y and HRSA has reviewed the letter. Have they provided any feedback or reaction to the letter, this draft?
Madam Manager.
We did not. Thank you, Commissioner O'Loughlin and Mayor. The team did not reach out to confirm that this letter would be supported by the YMCA or HRSA.
Okay, and then maybe a quick question for Commissioner Halliday. I know that you sent the draft to the mayor and commission email. Has the Y or HRSA seen the language that you've proposed?
No, they haven't. I sent that on, I think, Saturday.
Okay.
I did forward them when I first received this letter back around March 12th to them, or at least to Tim Meldrum. I didn't hear back from Tim on it because I had asked that specific question. Is this something that you all would actually want or see as a valuable? So at this point, all I can do from their silence is look at it and say, if I'm looking at the two possible outcomes, if I don't support the HRSA in their endeavors, then let's go ahead and send the March 12th letter, because I think it's actually not very supportive from my perspective. But I support it, so I'd rather send the proposal. And I'm not wedded to my language. I don't really care. I'm just telling this commission that if we support the March 12th letter tonight and say, oh, we're supporting the HRSA, I don't think we are. I think we're just saying that. But the content of the letter is not supportive.
Is there a reason why the Saturday letter was not included in the packet?
Because I wrote it on Saturday and sent it out to all of you for consideration.
So it could have been included still. But anyway, okay. So what I'm getting here is do we have two letters to decide on, or they're both?
Mr. Mayor,
Do we have two letters to decide on?
I might, if I could for a sec, I'm wondering,
Please, go ahead.
I am supportive of sending a letter of support to YMCA and HRSA, this concept in general, and that we want to be a partner moving forward. One of the things I'm wondering is if it would work if we used the original letter and took out the third paragraph, because one thing I'm not clear on is the location piece and why. I mean, I understand in concept why this would be an issue, but it's not something that we've necessarily talked about in terms of engineering and the rest of the concerns that staff seem to have. And so that's something I would want to know more about before saying, yay or nay that we're supportive or not supportive of the location. I think generally I love that all of those things can happen within walking distance of multiple schools, but I also don't know the full extent of the concerns of staff for the environmental and engineering piece. So I would feel comfortable taking that paragraph out. I do think though it might be important to just note that, this conversation of a parks district and involving city, county, parks board in what this looks like moving forward. This might not be, this is a facility of HRSA, but if we do end up supporting it through this mechanism or otherwise, I think that it's important that not just they know that this conversation is starting, but the community knows too, because there are tons of people who have been, talking about something like this for a very long time. And this facility would not just meet, some specific needs, but the needs of the wider Helena area as well. So I'm wondering if we can, just eliminate the third paragraph in the original March 12th letter.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments? I'm in support of the Saturday letter. The letter that was circulated on Saturday for us. I thought, it didn't hold our feet to the fire in any way. We're not going to be doing a bond in any way. But I thought it included everything the HRSA were looking for, the Y, St. Peter's, for them to start the process of fundraising. So that's where I'm at.
And I'll just say, I'm not wedded to that language, like I said before. Right. I think I wanted something that I felt was a much more aspirational or optimistic, supportive piece. I don't really mind putting in there that we're in the process of looking at a parks district. I think that's a great idea to rally people. Commissioner Dean, I think the one thing I'd just be careful is the language that concerned me was that the way I read it, and maybe I just over scrutinized it, there was a lot of indication to me that it was, sort of contingent on the Parks District or was going to be part of the Parks District. And I just wanted to make sure that we're supportive of it, irrespective whether the Parks District ever comes to fruition, right? There's a lot of ifs about a Parks District, and I certainly wouldn't want anyone from the HRSA or any community supporters to think that if and when the Parks District discussions fail, right, because county polls, or East Helena polls, or Jefferson County polls, sort of all of the moving pieces there, that somehow that would cease our support. But throwing in language that said, hey, if we ever get to a Parks District, this could be a sort of shining pinnacle of it. That I don't see any problem with that at all. But again, I'm not wedded to it. I just wanted something else that I felt was a true letter of support for it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Logan?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just a moment. So I guess it sounds like Commissioner Halliday, part of the difficulty he had with it was the mixing of the Parks District discussion with the facility itself. And I guess I share that concern. It just seemed like a couple of different conversations. And then Commissioner Dean is uncomfortable with the last paragraph. So that almost seems like it gets us to Commissioner Halliday's recommended language that was sent out. I guess maybe a question for Commissioner Halliday. So the city's letter that's in the packet has a concern about the location. Your language kind of is good with that location. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the part that I would definitely say is an editorialization on my part is I think that if we're going to make this thing, there's only a couple locations in the city of Helena where it's going to get built. One of them is there at the Y, and these folks want to do that. They've been told numerous times by the city. I think DEQ has expressed concerns, and they've said, tally ho, we're going to keep going on with it and see if we can build it there. We've got this pretty cool parks district that's formed around there. Redevelopment in the area, 2 urban renewal districts. When this commission prioritized livability, walkability, and smart growth, healthy growth at our January session, sticking our regional sports facility right there fits directly within that. The other option is to plunk this thing kind of out by the interstate with driving to or somewhere on airport district property, and that has been discussed historically. But if this is the place these guys want it, and it dovetails better with what this commission has said are its goals, I'm not completely familiar with all of the environmental concerns. I'm not an environmental scientist. I know Commissioner Dean mentioned, we haven't really talked about that. I certainly wouldn't want to put my name on, I won't put my name on a letter that articulates my concern, right? Because once we sign it as a commission, it's our concerns about locational issues. And so I don't care if the commission says, let's not do that part of it, and we want to just boil it down to one paragraph that just says we're supportive. I'm good with that too, because again, I just want to make an unequivocal yes from my part, and we'll let all of the complications and ugly discussions filter out after that. But I do think that its current proposed location does dovetail with everything this commission at least said at the January meeting, as far as I understood. But again, not wedded to the language, totally open to whatever people want. I just want us to say yes.
Mayor?
Go ahead, Commissioner Logan.
Thank you, Commissioner Halliday. Unless staff could provide some sort of glaring red flag here, I'd certainly be supportive of the language that Commissioner Halliday offered.
Thank you. Any other comments or concerns from the commission?
I'd be supportive. I think that Commissioner Logan essentially said what I would as well. If staff have any suggested edits that they would want to bring back to the commission, I'm comfortable with that. Otherwise, I'm comfortable moving forward with Commissioner Halliday's draft.
Thank you. Same here. Okay, any final comments?
Mr. Mayor, I'm comfortable with that. I mean, if I am in support of just adding a comment that a potential parks district is part of the discussions. I mean, I understand 100% what Commissioner Halliday has noted, in that, we don't know, this hasn't gone anywhere yet, but I think the fact that a conversation has started and the county has agreed to, be at the table to start that conversation is, a step forward is better than nothing. And maybe that's not worth noting, but I do know, since we've had the couple meetings, I've had a few people reach out that have been thrilled that we're talking about this in a more holistic manner, which includes a conversation about how we can support a sports facility.
Thank you, Commissioner. Madam Manager,
Thank
are
you.
you clear on that?
Yes, Mayor, just to introduce this, would you like for a motion or would you just
So we were just going with consensus that,
read it out if you wanted me to, but okay, moving forward.
okay.
Gotcha. Last item is that, thank you very much, Mayor and Commissioners, for the direction. I appreciate it. The next item on the agenda that I wanted to bring up is some sort of some sort of a commemoration of 1 year since COVID-19 has reached the Helena community. I know that on March 26th, Lewis and Clark County commemorated the 1 year since COVID-19, and now we're starting to move into a place of living with COVID-19. And through the end of May, our city operations will be transitioning into living with COVID, and what that means, and how our operations and services, especially those that increased efficiencies, will remain in place. Additionally, we're having a conversation with our business community on how we can be a support to them as they transition from responding to and reacting to COVID to now living with it. And so wanted to make sure that you are all in support of some sort of an approach by the team where we come back to you at an administrative meeting and note some sort of commemoration. It could be a ribbon program within where citizens honor those who have passed in our community, and also setting aside any dollars from general fund savings that perhaps could be used to purchase seedlings or tree seedlings for distribution. April is a fairly well recognized month of Mini Earth Day as well as Arbor Day activities. It's just an opportunity to not only commemorate, but also turn to something that is rejuvenating as well for the community. So that was just my request to you all, and just wanted to ensure some sort of support in doing so and bringing back to you more direct, specific opportunities. Anything in particular, also wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to share with us.
Thank you, Madam Howell-Shaw. Are you done with your report?
I am. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, moving along. Communications from Helena Citizens Council. Ryan Schwarker.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
Good evening. Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, good. I know I have a deep voice. Ryan Schwackert here from the Helena Citizens Council 5th District Representative. Just a few quick highlights. HCC is actively working to increase the number of constituents on our outreach lists. So we did some outreach in the winter, and I, for one, have actually seen some really positive results. It's not a lot, but I've had at least a half a dozen emails or phone calls from people in my district with questions and some input and feedback and ideas about how we can potentially increase recycling opportunities in the area, some safety concerns that have been addressed in the past. So I feel like we've had some small but measurable successes there. HCC is also actively working with the City of Helena Planning Department to gain some input from the public regarding Helena's growth plan and policy. As you may or may not be aware, we went through some growing pains in our communication end with respect to some of the development over on the west end of town. But we are actively working with the planning department on that. And then finally, Helena Citizen Council's members are working within our budget committee to craft some annual budget recommendations, which we will have to the City Commission by May of 2021. And if there are no questions, that's the input from our group.
Thank you, Mr. Swarkart. Any comments or questions for Mr. Swarkart? Thanks again. We appreciate your report.
Thank you, and best of luck.
You bet. Regular items. A, consider a resolution of intention to amend resolution number 19818 that create a special improvement lighting district number 222 to alter the boundaries by adding 16 street lights and to remove property in SILD number 222 in the City of Helena. Director Danielson.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners and City Manager Hollershock. I had received a petition from the developer Mark Runkle, R&D Partners LLC, to amend Light District 222, which is also out in the Mountain View Meadows development area. And there was a delay in a couple of the requests to add additional lights due to staffing turnover and finance. So at this time, I had a request for 3 additional phases and sections to be added to the district, adding a total of 17 new lights, or excuse me, 16 new lights. And then in addition to that, the R&D Partners LLC is requesting to remove some property from Light District 222, and which would shift the allocation of the lighting costs to the rest of the property owners in Light District 222. And I did in the resolution indicate that that would be considered a major amendment to the Light District, which requires a hearing time or a time for the property owners to send in their protests of the hearing once they receive a letter and a public hearing notice from the city. And we'll take that, and after which consider whether or not we have the number of property owners needed to protest the amendment. And if not, we'll come forward in May and request that the commission adopt the resolution to amend Light District 222 by adding the lights and removing the undeveloped land from the area. And at this time, I'd like to take any questions if any of the commissioners have them.
Comments or questions from the commission for Ms. Danielson? No questions. So I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll move to approve a resolution of intention to amend resolution number 19818 that created special improvement lighting district number 222 to alter the boundaries by adding 16 streetlights and to remove property in the SILD number 222 in the City of Helena, Montana, and set a public hearing date of May 3rd, 2021.
Second.
Second.
And Mayor, I don't know if we took public comment yet or not. It occurred to me as
No.
I was reading that motion, sorry.
Yeah, we'll take some public comments. It's been moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion from the commission? Do we have any comments from the public? Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Commissioner. I was about to chime in. Mr. Mayor, Commission, I see no public comment at this time.
Okay, then we'll turn it back over to you. It's been moved and seconded.
Commissioner Halliday.
Aye.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Loughlin,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Director Danielson?
Thank you. I'll be sending out those notices tomorrow to their property owners for Light District 222 changes. The next agenda item that I have is to consider a resolution of intention to create special lighting district improvement 399 in the City of Helena, and that's in the Skelton Development District. Earlier today, one of my staff members was looking through the resolution and noted that there might be a possible error in the resolution. And so I'd like to request that the commission table this resolution of intention until I can review the information with the city attorney's office and bring it back at a later date.
Thank you, Director Danielson. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would move to table a resolution of intention to create special improvement lighting district number 399 in the City of Helena, Montana, and to set a, well,
A future date.
and we'll just table it.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments? I'm sorry. Any public comments? Madam Clerk, do we have any hand raised?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I have no hands raised. I've received no written public comment.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, over to you.
Oh, I spoke just a moment too soon. If you give me just a moment, Ryan Schwackart has his hand raised.
Okay.
Mr. Schwackart.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Ryan Schwackart here, speaking as a private citizen. My address is 714 Cole Avenue, Helena, Montana, 59601. I will claim a little bit of ignorance, although I understand that it's not a defense in the court of public opinion. With the Special Lighting Improvement District number 399 and some of the issues that have come up with other lighting projects here in the City of Helena, would the City of Helena retain ownership of both the pole and the head for the Special Lighting Improvement District?
Any answers to that?
Mayor Collins, this is Director Danielson. I can address the question if you like.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Thank you. No, the City of Helena will not retain ownership of the lights or the poles. Those do remain in the ownership of Northwestern Energy. The City of Helena only acts as the taxing authority to collect the assessments and also add a small administrative fee to collect those assessments, and then we in turn pay the energy bills on that. But the lights and the poles themselves remain the property of Northwestern Energy.
Thank you. Madam
Mayor,
Clerk?
may I just ask one quick question? And I mean, I'm comfortable tabling this, but just because I imagine we're going to see this in front of us again in the future. I don't know if this is possible, but I think it would be helpful. You know, this notes that, you know, the extent to which property owners in the district can protest the creation of the district, and, you know, notes the potential cost burden, but I don't know exactly what that means. And it would just be helpful, if possible, when this comes in front of us, to just, if possible, to get a little bit of information about what the cost is for property owners in the district. And perhaps that's would be helpful information for the public hearing on the previous item as well.
Director Danielson, did you get that?
Yes, I did. The resolution does indicate the cost of the amount, and it's a cost per square foot that's assessed by the property owners. In the creation of Light District 399, I believe there was an attachment that indicated that what the assessment will be per property. I'm trying to bring that up right now. This particular incident is, our district is a little bit of an anomaly because the lights have been there for more than 15 years. And Northwestern Energy has now, they came to the city a couple of years ago, but because of staff turnover, has not been able to address it. But this particular attachment has included the potential costs of what it would cost per property owner on here. And this is what I need to review to make sure that those are accurate based on our internal staff calculations.
Thank you.
Does
Okay.
that provide enough information?
That is helpful. Thank you. And is it possible to do that for the above agenda item when we come to it during the public hearing, or is that just a different issue?
No, I can bring the possible assessment or the potential assessments for like District 222 when we come for the public hearing.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments or questions for Director Danielson? Okay. Madam Clerk, has been moved and seconded. Please take the roll. The vote.
Commissioner Halliday.
Aye.
Commissioner Dean.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. C, consider a request to release a non-motorized access easement along the common boundaries of Lot 4 and 5 in Block 9 of Upland Phase 2 of the Crossroad at Mountain View Meadows. Director Leland.
Thank you, Mayor, Commission. Let me share the screen. And this is talking about Mountain View Meadows, or a portion of Mountain View Meadows, the preliminary plat. We will go back, and where we were talking is this section of Mountain View Meadows. This is Highway 12. This is Crossroads at Parkway, where the new signal is out as you're going to East Helena. This is Blue Cross Blue Shield, and so this is the new part of the subdivision that is starting to be developed. It is currently preliminary platted, and the developer is looking at wanting to extend it and actually build it out. This is just a close-up. We are looking at some of the open lands parks that'll be private, and I think this next slide, and I will turn it to make it orientate the same way, but this is the preliminary plat that we are looking at and looking to modify, and there's a little easement that we are discussing right now. It's a 30-foot easement to allow access from this area to Jumping Crane Park. This is a little better view. So this is the area that we're looking at. Again, this is the new Blue Cross Blue Shield. They have preliminary platted or final platted this area and are building out houses in there. And this is the easement. Originally, when the preliminary plat was approved back in 2012, the commission looked at putting in this easement to allow better access for the neighborhood in this area to get to Jumping Crane Park. And then looking at it, the applicant is looking to get rid of it with some of the concerns from drainage and then safety reasons. They believe that there is adequate access to Jumping Crane Park from other areas. There's an access that will be provided over here, and then at the end of Uplands Avenue that they will be able to access it. That is their explanation and looking at it. So the grade differential, the easement, and then also there's already adequate access to the park. The park will be private and maintained by the homeowners association. We have received comments that by private people that are part of MTAC that they would like to keep it because it'll increase the travel distance and probably have to get in a car for this neighborhood to be able to go around to access Jumping Crane Park instead of going straight through and be able to access that. The Parks Department is in agreement with that and has the pretty much the same summary and explanation, and also the transportation systems have looked at it and has concern about getting rid of it because of the distance it would need to travel to be able to access Jumping Crane Park. I have some little blow up just to show what we're looking at. There will be access at the end of Uplands Park, but that will be a minimal access to that. Some more slides that we have. This is from the applicant. This will be approximate area to be able to, that the access will be there. There is a substantial grade difference, and that is what they are concerned about, is the drainage. I believe the drainage can be facilitated. It will not be easy. There may have to be some piping involved and substantial grading. They are worried about privacy for the two houses next to it. But the grade differential will just create not the easiest access to be able to get up there, but I do believe that it can be done in accordance with city standards, both with drainage and with access. So at that time, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Comments or questions for Mr. Leland, Director Leland?
So Director Leland, in the applicant's application on page 2, they provided a bit of an explanation and some of the accesses you showed us that are existing, and they propose a future access off of War Eagle Street. It looks like cutting through some existing, if you went back to that prior slide that you just had up there, that kind of blow, yeah, sort of right where your mouse is. But yeah, it looks like they're proposing an access in those developed lots, right where the A and G and the L and E are. Have those been looked at or considered in the recommendation from staff for distance purposes and other discussion?
Those parts were part of the comments that were provided to the staff and to MTAC, and so they were under consideration, but still consider this the best access for this neighborhood to be able to walk up and access it. So they were provided as part of the comments to be taken under consideration. I have that slide that I see that, or I'll see if I can bring it up just so that everyone can look at it, especially on Zoom. So I'll stop sharing and let's see if I can bring that up. I don't believe that I have that. I don't know where it went, but I'll see if I can find it. And if I do, I will bring that up.
Mr. Leland, maybe a follow-up as well. So if the commission agreed to release this easement, what's the functional effect for the applicant? Can they turn that into a developable lot? Does it just stay the way it is, but now it has signs that says don't walk here? What's the overall property ownership implication for them?
The indication that they're implying is that it would go back to basically split it up. The 30-foot easement, 15 and 15 will go back to those lots to provide a little bit bigger build out or a little bigger lot to be able to be used. It's a little narrow to create its own lot, but it possibly could, but it would just go back to the owner of what they feel be used, and they've indicated that it'd go to the lots adjacent to it just for a better build out.
Maybe one more, Mr. Mayor, right now. The proposed alternative access on War Eagle, is that, how does that compare to the grade that we looked at from the photos that you showed us? Is that coming in on a sort of a plane where you don't have to climb, or is it going to experience the same grade issues?
It won't have as big a grade issues. As you can see here, you're looking at this alternative street access that they are proposing in this area. I believe that's where you were talking about it. They won't have as big issues because it'll actually come up onto the hill itself. There still will be some grade issues, but not as much.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Question for Mr. Leland. So I think you mentioned MTAC and it looks like Parks was the other concerned. And you mentioned that the distance from that neighborhood that's not right backing up to the park, the concern was the distance from that to what the alternative access would be. Do you know what that distance actually would be?
Mayor, Commissioner, I guess what we'd have to look at is it would be this distance across here. I have not measured it, but it would be, I believe these are 60-foot lots in here. But you'd look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 10. So you'd look at 600, 700 feet to be able to access the end of Uplands, to be able to get on to Jumping Grain Park, compared to being able just to go across. So that would be the closest distance for this neighborhood is at the end of Uplands. War Eagle, they'd have to go all the way around, which would be quite a distance to be able to actually get to War Eagle and come up, because you'd have to go pretty much down to Summers Crossing to get to War Eagle and then come around.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Director Leland? Is there any public comment? Oh,
sorry, Mr. Mayor. So with regard to a park like Jumping Crane Park, we have Mountain View Park that was built out by the developer, a fully developed park. So Jumping Crane, you indicated as I think you said private park maintained by the homeowners association. So what's the legal status of that for me if I drive up and park there on, Upland Street and use that non-motorized access?
Mayor, Commissioner, I'd have to turn that over for the legal staff for Thomas. I do believe the indication is that the homeowners or the developer would like to keep it open, and it would be a natural park, not a developed park. But I do not believe, being private, I'd have to turn it over to Thomas, but I do believe that they could shut it off for private use, since it is not under city control or an easement.
Mr. Jordan, you have any comments?
Yeah, Mayor, Commissioners, I can't exactly remember. I want to say Jumping Crane Park, and this is where our planner who was associated with this project would come in handy, but she's retired. But I think Jumping Crane Park is outside city limits in looking at the map, and is part of a future phase, which, so it's not parkland, dedicated parkland yet. And Greg can correct me. I think the plan is that the association would manage that as a park that's open to the public, and that would qualify for a park dedication. But I don't think we're there just yet as in terms of the legal ownership and ability of public to access that.
And maybe another question. So, and maybe Mr. Worth can set me straight, but sometimes when we get these subdivision applications that come in and there's required parkland dedication, I think we know which land sometimes gets dedicated as the parkland because it's got too steep of a grade, or it's never going to be a choice place to build. And sometimes we even get the screaming deal of getting significantly more parkland dedication, and that's talked up because it looks like we're getting a great donation, but again, it's just land that's not going to get used. Is Jumping Crane Park actually land that we're saying this is going to be an enjoyable parkland for people to hike on and use, or was Jumping Crane Park sort of the leftovers, thereby meeting all the requirements of subdivision regulations? Because to me, it kind of matters whether this is a real park that people are going to be accessing and using, or if it's like, oh, that's basically a drainage ditch, so let's make it parkland. And are we really fighting over sort of angels on the heads of pins when it comes to non-motorized access?
Mr. Worth?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. To respond to some of the questions, Jumping Crane Park has been identified in the subdivision review as an area to satisfy some of the parkland dedication, but it has desired to be retained as HOA ownership. Mountain View Meadows ownership with the HOA maintenance in the future. Right now, it is currently county property because it hasn't been part of a current subdivision phase. So right now, the easement that would go through these lots, are going to inaccessible property. It's private property at this point. Mountain View Meadows R&D Partners property. So there's no means of providing access to the Jumping Crane Park at this point. So Jumping Crane Park, yes, is identified to be part as a future subdivision phase. It is usable property in the sense of a natural linear park. You can see kind of roughed in on the master plan is the black line is a trail. There is a, Jumping Crane Park has some terrain limitations on the backside of Uplands, the lots along Uplands Avenue. That's why they're oriented that way. There is a large bluff there, which is shown in the photo that was provided. And that's the reason for the request of the easement release is that terrain limitations. Obviously War Eagle, that's the alternate and future access point is because it would have a more terrain friendly connection to the upper part of Jumping Crane Park. And it does have some high vistas up there and would have some trail connectivity. So this does have a usable walking, hiking park. It certainly will not be, a playground type park that Mountain View Meadows Park has been developed as, but it certainly will provide an amenity in the future for the lots in this area.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comments? Madam Clerk, any raised hands?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I have Dave Gates with his hand raised.
Yeah, Mr. Gates.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Dave Gates. I live in Mountain View Meadows at 2834 Twilight, and I serve as the Mountain View Meadows Single Family Homeowners Association President. We've discussed this trail in our HOA officers meeting quite a bit. The HOA supports the request to remove the trail from this location and the associated non-motorized access easement. I guess from the HOA standpoint, we don't think the trail offers enhanced access for all users, and ultimately the HOA would be responsible for maintaining the trail. And we do have concerns about the adjacent site constraints, including the grade and drainage. So ultimately, we simply do not support the trail.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, next I have Mark Runkle.
Go ahead, Mr. Runkle. Mr. Runkle, you have the floor.
All right, am I on now?
Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Collins, commissioners, and staff for considering our request tonight. I find myself in the unenviable position of appearing to oppose access to open land where I actually 100% am in favor of it. In fact, open space access is a key part of the responsibility that Rebecca and I feel to set the best possible example for subdividing that we possibly can. In a two-dimensional world, I would not disagree with any of the comments or conclusions of those that oppose this request. However, in the 3 dimensions, I have to. After 17 years of developing rolling land in Helena, I've learned that drainage is paramount, and as they say, water always wins. I've spent sleepless nights and a significant amount of money correcting and preventing problems that only occur at times of heavy runoff and that were not recognized during the planning and engineering phase. An open space access between lot 4 and 5 as outlined would create one of these drainage problems. So I ask you to please approve this request. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ronco. Any other comments or questions? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, Greg Worth still has his hand raised. So Mr. Worth, if you had anything further to add.
Any other than Greg Worth? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I have no other hands raised and no other
Okay.
written public comment.
So, do you have any final comments, Director Leland, or you're done?
Mayor and Commission, I do not. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments for Director Leland?
Mayor, I have a question, I think, for Mr. Worth, if that's okay.
Yes, sure.
Thanks, Mayor. So, Mr. Worth, I am not an engineer, and so I don't totally understand all of this, but if the concern is about drainage, can you help me understand how not leaving this open poses more problems than, say, developing it as either a separate lot or widening out those lots? Like what happens then drainage wise? I don't know if that makes sense.
Mr. Worth? You are muted.
Yes. Commissioner Laughlin, what the drainage complications become is that in order to get a traversable trail through that area, it would require some switchbacks. And as the water comes linear down the drainage, it washes out those switchbacks, and then the trail itself becomes a conduit for that drainage. So it would potentially, that drainage, if it's not intercepted, or that interception is compromised, it would drain in between the houses, which is where the trail would access Uplands Avenue. So those are the complications, is that the drainage, like when you see water bars on a switchbacks, it's to get the water off the trail. But as the water's moving perpendicular to the switchbacks, it's going to continually scour and erode those switchbacks.
Okay, thank you. And then, Mayor, I have one more question. I don't know who best to direct this to, who staffs the non-motorized transportation advisory committee. I'm just wondering what information they were provided, and specifically related to what is described here as the future street park access, the mobility issue, and that being a better space versus where the current easement is. Is that information that MTAC had as well?
Mayor, Commissioner, it is our transportation engineer, Mark Young, that actually staffs MTAC and brought this proposal forward. And I believe, without him having it actually come here and say something, is he gave MTAC this proposal that did include all of the comments from the applicant. I do believe that is the case. So they were provided this information and did take a look at it, and were asked to provide comments, and only one of the members that is actually did it as private made the comments about this access.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Runco?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that, yeah, I think War Eagle is a much better access. The fact that it's only 630 feet of walking, if somebody wants to take a hike, I don't see why they would have a problem going to the west side here. And along Donna Way, you can park all the way anywhere along Donna Way. It says Hollyway on here, we changed it. And there's parking there. You can just get on the sidewalk and walk and get on the trails quite easily. I think if I could have had anybody out in 2011 or 2015, 16, when you get a lot of snow, which will inevitably pile up in this area because it's a drainage is in a west or in a north facing slope, and then it warms up and you get a rain. It's, they engineer 100 and 500-year storms for a lot of things. There's almost, I guess the world's record's 40 days and 40 nights. I don't know, but it's almost an unlimited amount of water that you can get sometimes. And if this doesn't wash out in 5 years, it'll wash out at some point that's coming up. And if we don't have to do that, actually, this is just an easement that's at the sides of 2 lots. So it's not that we're doing it to gain developable land, really. We just put the houses over to the side a little more, but we would have to be very aggressive about how we manage the swale that goes between those 2 houses. And without having the easement to deal with, then we will work at the kind of solution that I think Mr. Leland was commenting on, which would be a ponding and kind of a shape it, not so it looks like a pond or whatever, but to get an area that will collect a lot, and then a way for that to get out through piping. If you just put a pipe that goes like your bathroom sink, when those conditions that I mentioned happen, that will be frozen and it will still go around over the top. So between having more space to work with between the homes in the worst case, and having the ability to put somewhat of a earthen structure at the top of the pipe, I think that is the most robust solution that I can come up with right now. And this calls for a very robust solution whenever you have this risk of water. I wasn't kidding that I've spent a lot of money fixing some things that were not caught by engineers. We have a message from our land planner who was heavily involved in this process going, oh yeah, we did miss it, and this is not a good place for this access. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any
other comments?
I actually have maybe one more question, and I don't know if Mr. Runkle or Mr. Worth might be able to answer this. So just I'm looking at our packet, which provides all of the different conditions that were included in the preliminary plat, and just focusing specifically on the parkland provisions in here. Can you maybe remind me, are all of the other conditions within the preliminary plat being met? Or have there been other conditions that that you all have sought commission's approval to adjust or change?
Mr. Runkle or Mr. Worth, you have any comments on that?
Commissioner O'Loughlin, I'm not aware of any conditions specifically pertaining to the Jumping Crane Open Space Park that have been requested to be modified because it hasn't been platted yet. And I think from the developer engineering standpoint, we certainly recognize the condition for an access off of War Eagle is there's merit to that location due to the grade differences, lack of grade differences, and more readily access. On other parts of the property, I'm not aware of any other specific instances where it's been requested to modify or amend any parkland requirements.
Okay, thank you. And then maybe just a question for Director Leland, just on the, I'm sort of taking note of the comment related to the street park access that is the new, what is now being proposed versus this one, given the grade. And I just would be curious if I understand the concerns perhaps on the street, the houses that are near where this current easement is, but just taking a step back, if you were to sort of give an assessment of where park access would be best suitable, would you still recommend that it be in the current easement area, or like how would you compare these two locations and their access?
Mayor, Commissioner, they are kind of different. They access and provide access to different areas. I do agree that with War Eagle, it is a flatter slope, and there is some constraints with both drainage and some engineering to be able to get the trail up. With the grade differences, I'd have to agree with them, but they are totally different. I wouldn't actually say one is better than the other. One is easier to construct, both with drainage and with slope, but they just access different areas. This neighborhood in here, I don't think is going to use the War Eagle one. They would probably use the end of Uplands, because there's quite a bit of distance to go all the way around to get to War Eagle. So I can't say that one is better than the other. It is just they are totally different. You will get War Eagle with, Stacy and stuff. You'll get a little better access for them. So it's just totally different. One is easier to construct than the other. So I will leave it at that.
Thank you, Mr. Leland. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay. Do you have any other hands raised, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I have no other hands raised. I've received no written public comment at this time.
Thank you. At this time, we'll entertain a motion.
Emergency thing.
A motion from the commission.
Mayor, I'll take a shot, and if I get a second, I'll explain my thoughts. I would move to approve the release of the non-motorized access easement along the common boundaries of Lot 4 and 5 and Block 9 of Upland Phase 2 of the Crossroads at Mountain View Meadows. Certificate of Survey 335-3050.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion?
No, maybe, Mr. Mayor, I'll just explain my thoughts on this one. We see subdivision applications where people come in and seek to get out of these easements, whether they be for utilities or for non-motorized, and offer nothing in exchange. This is one where we've got two potential accesses, assuming that this War Eagle one goes forward. And when you look at the lots that are going to be able to access this or access the one we'd be shutting off, for many, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. We have two that have been treated basically equivalently, right? Neither is better than the other is sort of the objective answer we got. So the goal of maintaining that non-motorized access is still there. We're shifting the location of it. Some houses will be slightly farther, some will now be slightly closer, but we're not shutting off a better over a worse. Although some would say the one that we would be approving putting in on War Eagle is better than the other. So all that being equal, and given the applicant's interest in maintaining or enhancing non-motorized access while shutting off a problematic area, it just makes sense to me on balance to approve this request for release.
Thank you. Any other comments before we vote? Madam Clerk, it's been moved. Did we get a second? Oh, yes, Commissioner Logan, that's correct. It's been moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, would you take the vote, please?
Commissioner Halliday.
Aye.
Commissioner Dean.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Consider a sidewalk variance request for 707 12th Avenue and 619 North Davis Street. Public Director Leland.
Mayor, Commission, I'll try and make this quick. This is a sidewalk request for 2 lots that the property owners came in to want to install sidewalks along 12th Avenue. And they came in together, and it only makes sense to actually bring this request together as one, because if you're going to do one variance, you might as well have both of the lots, and it'll actually connect the sidewalks that go through the area. These are the two lots in question that we're looking at. This is North Davis Street. This is 12th Avenue. This is 11th, and then Rodney Street over here that we will be improving in the next year or so. So these two lots and the property owners are asking to come in and take a look and provide a curbside sidewalks along 12th Avenue and then come over to Boulevard. In the area, there is majority of it is Boulevard. However, you can see in some of the areas that you go further out that they are curbside, and you would have basically a transition over here in this area. You have Boulevard going down to curbside, so it'd be just the opposite. So it can be done. You can construct a Boulevard in there. There is not significant grade difference. There is a grade difference there, but it is not significant. It may take a small retaining wall, but a Boulevard could be installed in this area, and a fence would have to be removed. That is according to the applicants. We have a few pictures of them looking at it, and this is going to be on Davis Street. This is the applicant, and then they'd have to remove the fence. Then you can look at some of the others, and this is the transition, and it's down here is where it would go through. There may be some modifications to stairs, but just want to add that they are coming in at their own volition. They aren't required to install sidewalks, so they have come in to ask to put in sidewalks and then ask for this variance. So we are not requiring it, and then they are asking for this. So this is their own volition, and there'd be nothing for them to require them to put it in unless the commission decided to order in sidewalks in this instance. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Director Lena. Any comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead,
my
Commissioner.
question for Mr. Leon, and I want to make sure I'm accurate in my assessment. There are no sidewalks in there. Well, not quite a square, but square block that does not have Boulevard sidewalks. Is that correct?
Mayor, Commissioner, you are correct. You can look at it. So you have Boulevard all the way around, and this is a good part that we would actually have connectivity with the sidewalks in this area. So it would benefit the overall area to include it in the sidewalk network, but it is all Boulevard within their block.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, one quick question for Director Leland. Thank you for that explanation. You answered almost all of my questions already, but just so that I'm clear, and maybe this is a question for the applicant, is there intention to connect to the sidewalk, the sidewalks that currently have the Boulevard? It sounds like that's possible, but is that part of their existing design that they've submitted to the city?
Mayor, Commission, that would be part of the requirement. You'd have to connect to both sides of the existing, so there wouldn't be a gap. They'd actually have to come to this Boulevard, do a transition over, and then come in curbside and install an ADA ramp, which the city would participate 50% on. So yes, there would be connectivity.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments here, we have the property owners. Do you have any comments you want to make?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, do you mind if I just ask Mr. Leland?
Please go ahead.
A question. Thanks for the ADA. I had that question, so that if we approve this and they build it, we get an ADA corner there on Davis. Since sometimes these satellite photos are old, Mr. Leland, can you just confirm the north side of the street here is showing no sidewalks? And on 12, is that still the case, that the north side of 12 has no sidewalks on that block?
That is correct, Commissioner.
So if we granted this variance and they did construct it, then we'd have an actual complete sidewalk on at least one side of 12.
Correct.
Thanks.
Okay. The property owners here. Do you have any comments to make?
No, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for looking at this. But if you have any questions for us.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the commission? Do we have any public comments, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I have no written public comment and I have no hands raised.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll move to approve the variance request to install curbside sidewalks along 12th Avenue and 619 North Davis Street.
Second.
Any final discussion?
Mr. Mayor, you can go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Commissioner.
No,
Dean.
please
Okay.
do.
I just say, I'm going to vote yes, because I think some sidewalk is better than no sidewalk, but I do think it's unfortunate, just, given that the neighborhood has such great boulevard trees that are clearly mature and provide a lot to the neighborhood. I wish that they would be boulevard, because I do think that just adds to the neighborhood and improves the livability of the whole community. But in weighing no sidewalk versus a sidewalk, I'm going to go with the sidewalk, but I do wish that it would be boulevard.
Thank you. Any other final comments, Commissioner Howland?
I will just echo the same comments, although I'll say it from when we've had these conversations in non-motorized over the past year. Obviously non-motorized wants those sidewalks and the non-motorized networks, the tip-top complete street, but ultimately recognizes that what completes a network is ultimately the most important in moving people. That is a heavily traversed route. A lot of people use that connector of 12th over to Rodney, and you still see a lot of people walking dogs and kids in the streets there. So it's a pretty important corridor to finish out. And, if we had a better overall participation of the city in some of these costs, for example, because this would probably be an increased cost for retaining walls and other movement, we might be able to convince people to do boulevard sidewalks. So I think it's a worthy thing to discuss those funding mechanisms and how the city is a participant in these sidewalk constructions when we have our 4 hours of meetings coming up. Because if we want to compel boulevard sidewalks, you're going to have to be a city participant. You're going to have to spend money on projects, and it's going to mean picking winners and losers at times because there's never enough money to go around with 113 million of outstanding sidewalk requests. So we're getting sidewalks. If the city wants boulevards, we may have to pay for them out of our own pocket sometimes.
Thank you. Any other final comments? Okay, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Halliday.
Aye.
Commissioner Dean.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Before we move to public communication, I was asking the clerk just now, who is Jake Garson? I see his name here and I don't see his face, and we don't know who he is. So, Madam Manager, would you please let us know who this guy is? So.
Thank you, Mayor. My apologies. That is definitely not a good thing to do on most public meetings. I do try to make a kind of a spectacle of our new team members. So Jake Garson is our new public information officer, and Jake comes to us, and I'll let him give a little bit of background from where he's coming, but you might recognize the last name. It is, in fact, a relative of the county's as well. So we're really excited to have Jake on our team. He's already helping to relieve some of the pressure that others have jumped in and tried to cover, including Amanda, which is exciting. She's also moved into her new role as our special projects coordinator within the city manager's office. So she will be helping on a larger projects across the city departments. But now Jake is here, and I will turn it over to Jake. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Garson.
Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, thank you for welcoming me. My name is Jake Garson. My first week here with the city was last Monday that I started. My family moved here from Boise, Idaho. I have two sisters that have been in Helena for almost 15 years. I love the area, and we were excited to move our family here with our 2 young kids and have a chance to be part of the city staff. So I appreciate the warm welcome, and I'm excited to be here.
Well, thanks, and welcome to the City of Helena. We look forward to working with you. Any other comments from the commission?
Just welcome and thanks for all your work so far.
Yeah, Mayor, I would also say welcome. And I just started getting a lot of emails from you, just responding to other emails. And I'm like, who is this person? Right. Who's very active. And then I realized you're responding to all many, many emails that we are getting. And so thank you for all of your work.
Right.
Welcome, Mr. Garson.
All right. So is there any member of the public wishes to address the commission? Madam Clerk, do we have any raised hands?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I have no raised hands and I've received no additional written public comment at this time.
Okay, we'll give you another 45 seconds and we'll move forward. Okay, any final comments from the commission? If not, I wish you well. Go watch your game and may the best team win. This meeting is adjourned.